Okay, the March 13th, 2019 Conservation Commission meeting will now come to order. It is 7:07 p.m., and the first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda will be the approval of minutes, if any have been reviewed and are ready.
They have been reviewed and are ready, and I move to approve the minutes of February 27th, 2019.
Second.
Motion and second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. The minutes are approved. We'll go right to the request for determination of applicability, 350 Winthrop Avenue, Delta MB LLC.
So this is a project, brought about some requirements for ADA compliance at Market Basket. So this is unrelated to the project that was before you for culvert replacement and stream improvements. So this project largely results in a reduction in impervious area on the site, which is somewhat an improvement in and of itself. And because it is within the commission's jurisdiction, there's some stormwater improvements, but largely it's a sort of parking lot redesign, mostly revolving around the ADA compliance issues. So with that, I'll turn it over. And
Yes.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bryan Denton. I am a site civil engineer with the engineering firm of R.J. O'Connell and Associates. I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owners, Delta MB LLC, care of Demoulas Supermarkets, with a request for a determination of applicability permit application as it pertains to their property at 350 Winthrop Ave, or more commonly known as North Andover Mall. As Ms. Hughes alluded to, we're here tonight on behalf of the owners of the shopping center, as they have received a deficiency citation from the ADA advocacy group as it relates to deficiencies with grading and placement of handicap parking stalls, striping and signage and whatnot. Predominantly what has happened is some of the sidewalk that has been built, sections of the sidewalk that have been built along the storefronts of the shopping center exceed a 2% gradient. So in order to correct those measures, we are proposing to saw cut and remove those sections of pavement, sidewalks, rebuild them to the correct slopes. And what that requires is some of that grading transition to encroach into the parking field area. Predominantly, it extends into the main access drive between the shopping center and the parking lot, and encroaches probably 50 feet beyond the drive aisle into the parking field area. The site itself essentially has wetland jurisdictional areas on it, on both the north end, which is to my far right. There is a bordering vegetated wetland on that area. We have identified on the drawings the town of North Andover's 25-foot no disturb zone, as well as their 50-foot no build zone. In addition to that, the 100-foot buffer zone is also identified on the northern end of the site on my far right. In addition, we're also the site, a portion of the Shawshene River encroaches into the property boundaries, so we have also identified the 200-foot riverfront area buffer zone as well. Along the property frontage of Winthrop Ave, as Ms. Hughes alluded to, there is a perennial stream, so we've identified, again, the same jurisdictional areas, both local and state, on the 25-foot no disturb, 50-foot no build, the 100-foot wetland buffer zone, and the 200-foot riverfront. And then on the south end, which is closest to me, there is a bordering vegetated wetland along the south side, along the edge of the access drive that leads to the rear area of the shopping center. Its associated buffer zones, as well as the town buffer zones, are identified. The work that is within the wetland buffer zones primarily deals with the southern end of the property. And it's really by the tenant space identified as Payless Shoes. We are proposing, in order to complete the work, the ADA corrective work, I have dot hatched, and it's not really, you can probably see on this drawing, is a dot hatched area. The area of disturbance, or the area of disturbance that will occur within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. It's about 5,500 square feet in total area. And what predominantly the activities that will be occurring within that area is there'll be some saw cutting some pavement, we'll be reclaiming the pavement, grinding it up, regrading, and then resurfacing that area back to finished grade. We also have the opportunity within this area to implement or install a teardrop shaped landscape island on the southern end or the side of Payless Shoes. So today it's all paved. There's about 5,500 square feet of impervious surface area within that area. We have the ability to reduce that impervious surface area down to by 2,000 square feet. So upon the improvement, there'll be 3,500 square feet of impervious surface area in that area. We feel that the work, which is self-contained and already existing paved areas, we're not encroaching into any non-disturbance into a non-disturbance area, where it's really limited to the front door of the tenants and then the side of the Payless Shoes, that we felt pretty strong that a negative determination, in other words, we're requesting that a formal notice of intent permit application would not be required to be filed for this improvement at this time. We do have we'll just take a note that we were in front of the planning board at its February 19th hearing. We presented the project. All indications are we are scheduled to appear before them next Tuesday evening on the March 19th. We believe that they will be approving the project at that point. They did indicate that they will be it'll be a conditional approval on this project, where there will be a series of, we'll be required to do weekly inspections as construction progresses to ensure that the work is being done in conformance with plans and that stormwater runoff is controlled and confined to the workspace. I did not want to fail to mention, too, that as part of the improvements, although the majority of the improvements are to correct ADA deficiencies, we have agreed to do some stormwater enhancements, which are focused out back. Essentially, there's a series of catch basins that connect to drain manholes that discharge into the wetland resource areas. We have agreed to pump those catch basins dry and install environmental hoods on the outfall pipes on each of those structures. We did receive some correspondence back from Jen's office this week that a request has been made that the existing operation and maintenance plan that was prepared in 2006, which I think was prepared in conjunction with the culvert work, be updated to include the increased maintenance requirements as a result of the work we're doing out back. We've agreed to do that. That operation and maintenance plan is currently being updated as we speak. So we feel that, between some of the conditions that the planning board's imposing on construction sequencing and activities and inspections that our office is going to be required to do, that there's enough safeguards in place to ensure that construction-related sands and sediments will not be encroaching into the sensitive wetland resource areas. We'll be required to submit inspection reports on a weekly basis with photos. We'd be more than happy to, if the commission so chooses, to copy those reports to Jennifer as well. So in short, that's the project. I'm here tonight to seek the commission's hopefully approval that a formal notice of intent application would not be required for this activity.
Brian, just to be clear, is there erosion control proposed for the project?
Yes, there is. What we did not do is we did not identify it on the plans. What we prepared, what we added to the drawings is a sequencing plan where as the shopping center is going to remain operational as this work is ongoing. So the work is going to be done in segments. So what we have done is allowed the contractor to pick which segments he would like to do in a sequential fashion, and we prepared a sequencing dialogue or narrative that they need to follow as they progress down the line to finish the work. So whatever section they take, it'll be iced. There'll be temporary barricades put up. We are requesting that water barriers be installed on the downstream side, down gradient side, to ensure that sediment is captured. It's required to be inspected daily, beginning and end of every day, and be cognizant to the weather. If they're expecting heavy rains or whatnot, whatever appropriate measures need to be taken, that they will be installed the night before or during the day as work is ongoing.
Joseph?
On the erosion controls, even with negative determination, we could still condition it to be more specific than that, and which is fine. We can be generally specific that whenever construction activity is going on, that it be protected.
Right, so
Simple as that.
usually it's catch basins within 100 feet with silt sacks,
Yeah.
and then, I think wattles would probably only be necessary on when they're
along the
working
edge.
in jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I think everything else is far enough away that it wouldn't likely be an issue.
Sure. These aren't rain gardens. These are just simply landscaped areas that are
No.
previously paved, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, just landscaping. Okay.
I asked them about that, if they could do some curb cuts to let water flow in, and generally the site grading doesn't allow for that to be an overall optimal situation, and honestly, I can't imagine that the material underneath this site is anything that'll infiltrate anything, so,
I remember when it was a drive-in theater, and that back
Yeah.
corner was always rough.
and it's wet all the way around, so it's not like the water table isn't super high. That said, John Borghese, the town engineer, did have comments. So you talk in the description about pump dry the catch basins. I assume you mean clean, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So he asked that all of the catch basins be clean and that the O&M be updated to talk about 4 times a year inspection and at least once a year cleaning with the sumps cleaned if they're at least 50%
And don't get me wrong,
full.
this is great from an ADA perspective, and I think there's plenty of protection to the wetlands possible, and we're going to see to it. And anytime you take pavement off, that's a great thing too. But just as clarification, the work in the back and the O&M plan in 2006 was not the result of the culvert up front. It was actually an enforcement action by us that required it. They had a very poor housekeeping track record back in the day. They've come a long way, but it's time to revisit it, and so it's appropriate. I just want to be clear. Again, it's not a real big deal, but you had said 5,500 square feet of landscape?
No, 5,500 square feet of disturbance within the 100-foot buffer zone area.
Disturbance, not just the
disturbance.
landscape, because I was trying to look at that triangle, see, and get 5,500.
No, it's about
Impossible.
2,000 square feet of new landscaping or less
Okay.
impervious.
Got it, I'm all set, thank you.
A question I have is in regards to the current O&M plan that is being updated. Does that require reports of yearly cleaning of the catch basins, things like that?
It's supposed to require monthly reporting of trash cleanup, but we haven't. When I go out there and I notice trash issues, we get responsiveness, and I think that's what's important. I don't honestly think that monthly reporting of trash maintenance is overly. I think it's overly burdensome, but I think they have done a lot better knowing that we do keep track. The O&M reports, we've always made it a condition that they're available upon request, and so as they've filed or as they've asked for additional work, I don't think it's necessarily something we should make part of an RDA, but we have an NOI in front of us where if you want more frequent reporting, I think that would be the time we could condition that.
Yeah, actually, my question was about how have they done since 2006? Have they been regular reporting without us asking?
No, but
Are
I
they
don't
up to
think
date?
the requirement for reporting is about trash maintenance more than anything.
Okay.
Back in the day, that was the big problem. You have
Yeah,
more
that
trash.
was-
Trash, right. And the hard part with this particular site, it isn't just their site. I mean, they're on Route 114 and they're down gradient of Route 114. So a lot of that trash that comes to their site is 114 trash, unfortunately. But again, when I've mentioned that I've been out there and it's been a problem, or they're cognizant that they need to be doing it, and I'd say it's better than it used to be.
No more questions.
Sean, would you like to?
I'll pass with you, thanks.
Deb?
So there are going to be several species that are going to be planted, and you had said that they proposed non-native, but you're going to be working with Jen to plant native species.
Yes,
Correct.
that is correct. I did receive an email from Jen this afternoon. She was concerned about some of the plants that we're going to use, so we are going to swap those out with non-natives, subject to her approval. So that'll be a change that we'll make to the drawings.
You're going to put native instead
Correct.
of the non-native.
Correct.
I think we can condition that. And it's not so much that it can't be ornamental, it just shouldn't be the things that are kind of
Sure.
tubular, daylilies, vinca. These are things that find their way into our resource areas and probably should, there's a lot of things you could propose that
Sure.
would be better than that.
We will work with Jen on that.
Okay, and Jen, in addition, the wetland delineation has not been confirmed, so what would you suggest?
There's a box on the, RDA form on the determination form for confirming the delineation. We're just going to say it's not confirmed because it has been confirmed in the past, and I think it will be again in the future. Mary Rimmer's working on the other project out there. So I don't doubt the resource area delineation. It's been done in 2016, 2017, and it'll be redone again soon, but
Yeah, if any work was done on the perimeter of the pavement, we'd be having a different discussion. This
Yeah,
is all
right.
interior work.
within the parking lot. So I don't think there's any need to confirm a new delineation for this project.
Thank you.
No questions.
Are you up to speed, or?
Yeah, but I was just looking at Jen's comments. Do they submit reports concerning if they do it 4 times a year, or whatever that number is?
So not currently, that's why the O&M would be updated for this particular project. I think it could be further updated when we we have a notice of intent in front of us that's going to continue tonight, but RDAs are they don't get recorded, so this isn't really the place. I mean, we can put the condition in there that they report, but
Well, do you want them to? I mean, is there any way to determine if that's actually being done on the scheduled basis? Because everything, whether it's this project or other projects, comes down to...
the prior orders don't require that, but I think we have an open order in front of us, and I think it's a time when we could update the O&M. Planning's going to require it in their decision, and we can reference it in ours. I'm just saying this won't be recorded, so it's kind of a little more ambiguous as to how we enforce that going forward.
Just want to throw this out, and then the first order of business for us tonight is to determine whether or not the IDA is appropriate.
Right.
That before we get into the weeds.
Yeah.
If this is an IDA, then we talk about how to
Yeah.
make it a good IDA.
I think this is an RDA. I think this is work within existing pavement. They're not working outside of the existing limits of the work. They're going to provide more impervious area a more pervious area as part of the project. There'll be more landscaping. They're going to put hoods on the catch basins. I mean, it's only a plus. I don't think there's anything in here that makes this a notice of intent.
And it does it become especially onerous on your end just to receive these reports and then notice when you're not receiving them after a couple
I think that
quarters?
having the requirement in there for them to do it makes it easier for us when, these aren't invisible sites. This is a place where people constantly report, where we constantly visit. This isn't, so if there's a problem, if there's a condition that says we should be getting this and we're not, it just makes it easy to say, hey, we were out at the site, you're stockpiling snow where you shouldn't, there's trash in the wetlands, you're supposed to be doing this. Those kinds of conditions just make it easier to
exact compliance when you need to. There are some sites that we have that, send in their quarterly reports without fail. There are other sites that don't, but, when we have an issue, it's easy to say you've been not doing something and you need to do it because it says, your order says you should.
The car wash at 114 is a great example.
Yeah, exactly.
Got his attention.
Right.
Is there any way to more closely monitor when you don't receive those reports, other than just getting that feeling that you drive by it and it clicks in your head that you hadn't received one recently?
Somebody who just sits around and monitors reports.
Well, I mean, electronically, everything is set up for, scheduling and
I think with currently 1,750 order of conditions out there.
two owners.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and do the way this all happens
you
is
could-
when people come back to us,
When we created that boilerplate order, that particular condition, we actually wrestled with that exact question. It's just how onerous it would be. We envisioned it would be very onerous, which is, I think, was why we put the second piece onto it that said that the burden is upon the applicant to maintain those and that they present them to us when asked. And,
well, no,
so-
that's the way we've revised it to say, is that I no longer say you submit quarterly reports it's if we show up at your site, you need to have the prior 5 years' reports in a binder, right, saying what you've done. And that doesn't put the onus on the applicant to send us those reports. It puts the onus, on them to be doing it and us to ask if we want to ask. And I find that to be a better way to do it, just because it doesn't require us to track a submission, but it allows us to ask if we want to ask, anytime.
Any other questions? Is there anybody from the public? Any abutters? No abutters answer. So Jen, I take from this you have a recommendation.
Yeah,
And,
so it would be that you issue a negative number 3 with no confirmation of the wetland line under the determination, and special conditions to reflect the O&M maintenance suggested by the town engineer. And the buffer zone plantings to be native species.
just
I know that we typically use the no more than 3 rule, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's appropriate. And I think something about soil stockpiling and protection of soil stockpiles should be mentioned, whether some prescribed distance no closer than 50 feet, and when it is any stockpile, that it be adequately protected around its perimeter from a
Yep.
migration from the pile.
And a question from me, would it be productive or appropriate at all to annex the letter, the applicant's letter that we have here before us, which on the back page has the comments from Mr. Borghese as well? Would you think that's necessary to annex that?
Well, I was going to condition that they comply with his requests
Yeah,
to provide an updated O&M plan prior to construction.
okay. There is a lot of data in this letter that was submitted by the applicant.
Right, but their O&M plan would reflect that data.
Okay, so you don't think it's necessary to annex this?
No.
Just keep it,
We'll reference it as a record document in the,
fair enough. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? So there being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
thank you. Do you have your green cards, or did you already give those to your certificates of mailing?
Yes, I know
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, Jamie gets them, and I often don't know that we have them, so I always ask.
Okay. We have several items that are request to be continued. I'll go through them right now. Under the notice of intent, 242-1751, 2051 Salem Street, request to continue to 3/27/19.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous. 495 Main Street, the Town Recreation Complex, Town of North Andover, request to continue to 3/27. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous. 242-1745, 350 Winthrop Avenue, IDM Inc., request to continue to 3/27. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And under general business, I have 2421655, a COC request for Wellington Way, Messina Development. Request to continue to 3/27/19.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And the last one I have on my list is Lawrence Municipal Airport, 2421672, request to continue to 3/27.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. All those stand
So
Continue.
one more continuance was, I didn't
I
hear
don't
you
have it.
say it was 1820 Turnpike Street, sorry, first general business item. Also, at the end, requesting to continue. I was just out there today, so it was a late continuance request.
It doesn't have a request to continue on mine, but you want that, so
They've
242,
requested to continue as of today.
as of today, so 2421382, 1820 Turnpike Street, request to continue to 3/27.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Okay, now you got them all.
Now we got them all. All right. So, yeah, so we will move to, do I have anything? 242 XXX, 1270 Salem Turnpike, Sampson. I have nothing on that except what I just read.
Yeah.
And you're here, very good.
I am.
All right.
And do you want to use the plan you sent today?
Sure, that as well. So there's a pointer, or I forgot my pointer in the car.
No.
But okay, I'll speak to it. I brought my easel, but myself nor my former colleague could get one of the three legs out, so I'm going to have to improvise
You know,
here.
we used to.
Sorry about that, a little embarrassing. Do you have one? Okay.
Yeah, but it works.
Thank you. This is the second time this has happened to me. I think it's the guys I work with just crank it down too hard.
Yeah, I know. You can't get it, someone wrote on it with like permanent marker, they couldn't get it to clean up.
Salem Turnpike. Jen, do we
So
have
I
to-
think the screen just pops up, Joe, and
There
then,
it is,
and
right
then
here.
you tighten it, yeah.
We might need an engineer.
He isn't, he,
Sorry, I did not know that.
How many engineers does it take to put up the easel?
That's a good question.
I think the board was last used for something important, Super Bowl prediction.
Thank you so much. Now I feel a little more professional. Okay, Ann
Attention to the Super Bowl prediction.
Ann McMenemy from Hancock Associates for the applicant and property owner, 1270 Turnpike LLC. The purpose of this project is that it is an existing office building that the applicant has recently purchased, and he would like to change the use of it and convert it into a daycare center. And they need an outdoor play area to support the daycare center. And the only possible area is behind, here's the existing building, is behind the existing building in this area. So that'll be the focus of my presentation and our discussion this evening. Let's start with jurisdiction. So we have Boston Brook that is just off-site, which now is very difficult to even imagine a brook there since all the beavers, it's a big pond, but indeed it does have riverfront area from the USGS map that this was, the 200-foot was scaled from. We also have the edge of bordering vegetated wetland that was flagged by Rimmer Environmental Consulting. I don't know the date, but in the last couple of years, I understand most of the flags are still present. And then we've applied the 25-foot no disturb zone and the 50-foot no build zone, and there's the 100-foot buffer zone. Also, relative to jurisdiction on the site, the area directly surrounding the land that has been developed is estimated habitat and priority habitat by natural heritage. And we were in receipt this morning of a letter from Natural Heritage that has found that that they don't think that either they will not, under estimated habitat, they will not adversely affect an actual resource area. And under priority habitat, they've determined that there will not be a take. So there's no further review with Natural Heritage necessary. And I forwarded this, actually, the Natural Heritage copied the commission, Jennifer, on that fact.
although they do have a construction restriction. No construction between,
Right, the time of year restriction, between October 15th and March 15th, in order to avoid the active season for state-listed Blanding's turtle. Okay. So I'm here on the notice of intent. Obviously, this evening, this would be something that would be great if you wanted to carry that as a special condition in the order of conditions that we're requesting. Thanks for reminding me of that, Jen. Okay, so what is proposed is a level playing area for potentially up to 70 daycare participants, children. And this is my erosion control boundary. The fence, there's a vinyl, 6-foot vinyl fence proposed just inside the erosion control boundaries, moving right around there. And then there's grading, cut and fill, that I'll go through the differences in this area back here to try to make the area more level. Right now, it drops off significantly, and then there's this sharp riprap slope, and it's really, the purpose of this project is for safety, to keep children out of the standing water in the wetlands and from falling down the slope. Excuse me. We did do the stormwater checklist and have that as part of the notice of intent application. There's no increase in impervious area. There's no additional impervious area. We go through which of the checklist standards apply and which don't. Most of them don't apply, but I can answer any specific questions when we get to the questions section on that. But I just want to point out that we are in compliance with the stormwater regulations, stormwater management regulations. We also have construction sequencing notes in the stormwater management report, but also on the plan that goes through, so the order we go through here. So it's first, obviously, installing erosion controls, installing a retaining wall that is on the edge here, and then the vinyl fence, and, concrete steps, then the vinyl fence, and then a gate in the fence, and then remove the existing brush, grade slope, and place 6 inches of loam and seed, and then install a play structure for the owner's design and location. Relative to riverfront area, the resource area that we're proposing work in, we did take a look at the 5,000 square feet or 10% regulatory provision of whichever is greater, and we have 41,077 square feet of riverfront area on the lot, and the proposed work area is 3,275 square feet, and that's an 8% of the 10% that we could be allowed to permit. I did not have that in the notice of intent. That was one of the questions that your agent asked me, and I replied in writing today. And then another question I understand from commissioners was about the areas that would be cut and filled, what the depth of fill is and what the slope is. Do the commission members have what came in this afternoon, Jen, or is it just up on the...
I gave them a copy.
Okay. So there's 2 areas. One's a cut and one's a fill, working on this northeast side of the building. And you see the red area is a cut with an average cut of 1.8 feet and a slope of 7%. And then the green area is an average fill of 1.1 foot in depth and a slope of 8%.
So how did you work out with the total riverfront area disturbance? So there have been 2 prior filings on this site. Neither had riverfront on them, and both applications were made after the Rivers Protection Act, and I don't know if that was just for the fact that this had become a ponded beaver area and maybe not so much a riverfront from the average, onlooker's perspective. The river didn't exist, right? So, but there is riverfront here, and it wasn't really taken into account. So I asked Ann to kind of do the total, what's been altered since the site has been altered. I don't know what you came up with for numbers.
Yeah,
but
so there's a little bit of complication to that. So like I said before, we have 3,275 square feet is the work that we're proposing in this notice of intent that's before the commission in the riverfront area, and that is 8%. So it's we don't need the 5,000 square feet of 10%, whichever is greater, so we're going with the lesser one. When we added in the portion of the existing building, that is within the riverfront area, the number jumped up to somewhere around 4,500 square feet. So we would go to the 10%, to the 5,000 square feet in that. And then I called Jen to clarify because I didn't want to double dip. It just seems sort of odd, but there was work done in the same area that we're proposing the new activity of the grading and the fencing and this retaining wall and stairs. But it was never permitted as a riverfront area. And then there was a notice of intent even prior to that. So I'm moving forward, and hopefully the commission will agree with what our proposed plan includes as a number, not adding in the cumulative. I could add, the building is fine, would still be under the 5,000 square feet if that's how the commission wants to memorialize it in the meeting minutes. But I did not calculate then again what this grassed slope area is if we counted this twice. Does that
So
make sense?
I'm fine with memorializing it as 4,500 square feet of riverfront alteration, so that if anybody ever came back, there's only 500 square feet to be altered, technically. The lot hasn't changed, it's existed since prior to the riverfront.
I'm wrestling with the whole riverfront definition, because a brook flowing into a pond is clearly a river, and a brook leaving a pond is a river. But when a pond is a recently created entity by damming, which I say recently, it's been flooded to this extent for 10 years.
There's still a riverfront portion. If you look to the north of the site, there's a
Where it
narrow
crosses
channel.
under 114?
No, before that. There's a narrow channel that exists up above, at least when you look at aerials.
So that's what we're using as a establishing
It would
boundary?
cast riverfront down, maybe not so much to the left as to the north. But I think it's a fairly conservative number just to apply. I mean, this is, again, one of those sort of upland islands, and you don't want to see anybody.
And it doesn't change the project, it just
No.
defines it.
It just
That's right.
defines it, so there's a number associated with the site and the development that we can look to if anybody proposes anything further. Honestly, I mean, even this brings in wetland that's now on the Farnham property to the right.
Yep.
That wasn't brought in on the prior filings, because his field has become wetter than it was
That's
previously.
right, specifically in this area.
No,
This area.
Yeah,
okay,
that
over
little
there.
isolated area, that
Yeah.
little green line
Yeah,
down.
okay, over here,
Yeah,
sure.
that wasn't previously flagged, and when I was out there was standing water, so
Yeah.
they off-site flagged it, not for the purposes of confirmation, but just to say it's wet over there now too. So I think the site's pretty constrained. It just puts everything on paper in a way that it hasn't been done before.
That's right. So this area but wetland boundary did change in this area.
Changed, right.
It became more extensive. There is a drain pipe from catch basins that are along here that comes in and discharges down into here.
Right.
Um,
So when I say that the site is, the fencing is all within previously developed areas that are within the 25-foot no disturbance zone. Outside of the no disturbance zone, you do propose to clear additional area, but within the 25-foot no, the fencing actually extends now into the 25-foot no disturbance zone, but that was area that was approved for clearing and was outside of the 25-foot no
Back then.
disturbance zone previously.
Yeah.
there is a line on there, the 2003 cut line that you may see that would help you understand that.
So that whole discussion, and then coming back to the cut and fill piece of it, is this map floodplain? It is.
No, it's not. There's surprisingly, it's not. We have the permit.
Not on the site, not on the, where
Right, so-
they
Yeah.
propose to do the work.
That's right.
So there's no compensatory flood storage
No. So, yeah,
considerations?
if you have a chance and you look at the format that's in the back of the notice of intent, you can see the building clearly in the area, and it's next to it, but it's not on the site itself,
There's no-
on the property
There's
that's
no concern of
developed.
balancing
the
cuts and
developed
fills
part of the- Yeah.
to meet compensatory flood
Yeah.
storage, all right.
And the only area where trees will need to be cut is this area right here. And so that's why we submitted the stormwater management as new and redevelopment. Most of it's redevelopment, but that's the new area where trees would be cut.
And one of my last questions is a permitting sequence question, is where there's a considerable change of use in actual now physical activity for like an at-risk population, if you will. I mean, have they already received their local building permit approvals? I mean, they're going to be concerned with perimeter access for fire, for ambulance apparatus or anything?
No, we have not taken that step yet.
So this is going to be us looking at this and only this, and if some other agency comes back and says, we need more.
Right, we'll be
you're
back.
You'll be back, all
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And I asked that question ahead of time because I knew this would be a zoning change. for this particular site, but I think when it comes to building permits, it's sort of premature. Like, if they can't do what they want to do, this can't be a daycare anyway. So
Okay.
it seemed like the cart before the horse as far as that was concerned.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I guess my question has to do with that red and green marked up drawing. Those clouded areas in there, is that the sum of the green and the red, does that really sort of define the limit of work?
The limit of work is, excuse me, is all within the hay bales here, so no, the limit of work is a little more extensive.
So it's that dark black line?
Yes, the dark black
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
The fence one, you mean, that has the X in it, right on the edge? That's the
So
limit of work.
is the play area going to be,
It's going to be here and here.
it's not clearly defined.
I can pull up the other plan. I had Ann do this one. Because it didn't show where they would be cutting and where they would be filling, but if you see these numbers 6 and
Yeah,
7 in the
yeah.
back,
Yeah.
6 is the area of clearing, and 7, I think, on the site plan is referenced as the install play structure.
yeah.
So this area back here, and if you're behind this building right now, you just walk around the building. There is no room for any sort of
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah,
This is definitely going to be a very small play area.
I-
This is not for much
I guess
room.
I saw that number 7 in the code and everything, the legend, but I wasn't sure that, it didn't look like it was clearly defined what the play, how the dimensions, the boundaries of the play area. So I guess that's sort of loosely defined by your plan. And then I guess my second question has to do with, okay, there's going to be a play structure in there. I remember,
Yes.
we heard about that. Is there going to be a surface treatment, wood chips?
No, right now, we're just proposing grass, a lawn that we've mowed. Loam, 6 inches of loam, and then stabilized with the grass.
And is
seed
that
mix, yep.
included in your proposal?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, it
okay.
is. It's in the stormwater standards of one of the last standards, I forget which one, and it's also listed in more general
Yeah.
on number 6, I think it is here. Yes, the 6 inches of loam and seed.
Okay. I have no more questions.
Is that something you guys came up with? Or in conjunction with your client?
Is that not, excuse
We
me?
asked the question in English, I'm sorry. Yeah, my wife does daycare. And I know one of the things they always get her on is the play surface. And it does in fact have to be certain types of resilient,
Okay.
not resilient, but impact resistant.
Sure. Well,
types of-
I'll bring that question back to the client and to the civil engineer who's the lead on this. We are going to need to continue this evening because we do not have a DEP file number, so that's something I can certainly get the information and respond to the commission.
Because if that's something that can be flushed out now, that's something that you probably want to get permitted without having to come back
Yeah.
when you learn later.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
So as far as the chronology, is this going to remain open until all the final details are done, such as the location of the play area and what it's going to be comprised of and all
I
that?
think if you'd like to see details of a play structure, when I talked to them on site, he just talked about swing set type material. He wasn't really, and we've generally not gotten involved. I said if he wanted to propose, the castle with the, some kind of building that we would need to permit that, but
Right.
if he was talking swings or plastic play structures or any of those sorts of things, that didn't really concern us, but that
But what's the use going to be? It's going to be a
Daycare.
daycare?
Play area.
So aren't there regulations as to certain, what they can be? I mean, I think it's a kind of a heavily regulated
Well, that's
area
what-
that we
that's
don't
what I
have
think
the
Joe just asked.
the information on that
do they
type of
need to
stuff.
have some sort of surface that isn't being proposed here?
The operative phrase is heavily regulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And depending on the range of age of your clientele and the types of use and how many people you have, it's going to drive
The size.
what's required.
Right,
What's required.
right, the age
And that
bracket.
once that's determined, that's what we need to know, because it may not be
Yeah.
a couple of plastic playthings in a swing. It may be a requirement, then it'd be much more elaborate.
Yeah.
So I don't think we know that yet.
I don't think it's equipment heavy. Like, honestly, it's not equipment heavy, but it might be surface requirement that I would be more concerned about. Because I think nowadays equipment's viewed as, hazardous. Slides and seesaws and swings and everything has its, I've seen more daycares remove their equipment than add it. So I wouldn't be worried so much about the equipment they might require versus the surface treatment they might require, which we would be more concerned about.
And
Right.
that number 7 is the proposed location for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And when they were locating, they did ask me about the no-build zone and play structures, and I told
Yep.
them that if it just consisted of,
Right,
You
but
know.
when she did her presentation, she said per the owner's location and design.
Right.
Which really left it all open.
the design, right. But and we can condition that. I don't really have any problem conditioning that it can't be any kind of impervious structure.
I have nothing else.
But the more detail, Ann, you can provide, I
Yeah.
think the better, the
Absolutely.
easier it is for them to
I will come
decide.
back with answers to those questions.
Thanks.
No questions.
I just have one question. It goes to the discussion about the final decision on what the surface will be in the area. And you may have answered this already, and if you did, I apologize, but will that have an impact on standard number 7 redevelopment? If the surface area of the proposed playground is changed?
Well, I guess it needs to be something that's pervious, right?
Right now, you had stated that it was going to be just lawn, maintained lawn.
That's right, right.
No, so say the state comes into you and says, no, that's unacceptable. We
Okay.
want something else.
All right, I'll address that with the engineer.
Which-
Once I get
which
an
is-
answer to what we
which
have
is
to put
likely-
there.
It's likely they're going to do that. You're proposing 70 children. I'm not in the regulatory business on that end, but I would suspect that there may be some comment on that from someone
Okay,
in regulatory with respect to 70 children. I think that your standard 7 redevelopment may be impacted. I'm just putting it out there.
okay.
That's my concern.
Well, actually, it's a great question, but the area that we're proposing, the play area, is new development in Riverfront area.
Yeah.
It's not, and I guess new development under the stormwater management regulations for both of them, so that, we're not claiming redevelopment for that area.
Okay.
And how big is that area as it's shown on the plan? I mean, it looks like a square, right?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that the overall riverfront area on the lot, so this is just under an acre, is 41,077 square feet.
Right. My question was, how big is the play area designed to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I will find out, though.
Is it going to be smaller than Drummond Park?
Yeah, way smaller.
So are you looking for the full print, like the level areas that they can run around and throw balls? Or?
No, I think
Looking for more than what we have.
new riverfront versus what's already cleared.
Okay. Wait, okay, so,
Tell us exactly what it is you're going to be putting in.
Yeah.
I think we need more detail. That's what we're all saying.
yep,
And your detail should probably reflect what the regulations are going to tell you to do.
That's
first,
right, yeah, that's where we're
so
gonna
you don't have
start.
to keep coming back.
yep, absolutely.
All right, that'll help. Any other questions from
So
anybody?
tell the owner to pick out the equipment he intends to put in.
That's right.
And does he have to put it in front of the building department to make sure that it complies before?
No, not to the building department, but there are regulatory boards for the daycare people.
Yeah.
But I think
Daycare.
from the building inspector's decision is going to be, is this an appropriate use for this location? Because this is currently an office building, so it's a change in use, but that's not such a, I
No, I
mean,
know, but I don't want to
I don't want to get into that.
caught up in the change of use definition, because I understand what that is. I'm more concerned about what the regulatory board that child safety playground stuff, what are they going to want on the ground?
Right.
You know, I sit here feeling that we're just watching this trial balloon floating over our heads and then
Yeah.
seeing where it goes. The truth is, yeah, maybe we'll give you a permit if you maybe know what you're going to do.
So pretty much, yeah.
We don't know.
So
They don't know, we don't know.
I think I agree with you, which is why I brought up that standard,
Well, I
because
should say, we
that's a
just
big deal
approved
on there.
a daycare over at Treadwell's, They came to us with literally a small project permit just to regrade and grass an area. They didn't have a surface over there either. They were going to remove knotweed to put down the playground surface.
So how did that shake out?
Did you call it Treadwells?
I did. Sorry, Mad Mac, whatever you want.
She's officially Italian.
It's good that,
Officially
Calls it Treadwell.
I always appreciate that, too. I appreciate that very much, yeah.
Anyway, we did approve that over there under a small project permit, just because they were removing knotweed, not grading, and just basically establishing it, but it was grass.
Well,
And
a heck of a
so
lot further away from resource area.
it was within 100 feet, obviously, because it was in front of you. It was outside of 50.
But not as close as this.
I get it, but I'm just saying they approved it as grass. That's how it was proposed.
And I don't
to
want to beat it up.
developed.
I mean, the
Right.
reality is if you
They
come
might be
in
okay.
and
So they approved it?
No, it's approved as
Yes,
grass.
yes,
Their
it got
playground
approved by-
area.
yeah,
Right.
Wow, that surprises me. That they
So that's
have
what we want to
mandatory-
They're a natural child care center. So again, like, I don't know I don't do daycare. I technically did.
A good business to
It's
stay
called
out of.
parenting. But I think there's a range of things that could be proposed, so we'll let them work it out.
Yeah.
So that's what we're asking for. We're saying we want more info.
Yeah, understood.
All right,
And I
great.
will get that.
Great.
And-
Anybody else have anything else they want put on the punch list for? No? What are we looking at for a continuous date for this?
3/27's the next meeting? Is that good?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll tell you, it's a minor thing if we're looking just to have them think about things while they're away is, great interpretive thing for young kids to learn the appreciation of what they have around them. Things like bird boxes and little interpretive things that can be part of their lesson plan. Kids love birds, and if you could enhance the meadow habitat out here by doing that. That maybe help us with the proximity of some of these other things.
Bird boxes.
Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to see the wetlands and the beavers and.
Because they're going to be on the other side of a
the
6-foot
six-foot
fence.
fence, right. They may hear the frogs going, but.
I think some bat boxes might be good for the mosquito population.
Yeah. Except there's not hardly any trees left that you could put them up high enough that you're supposed to put them.
It is a cool spot, though.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to continue to 3/27/19. Any discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you for your time and input.
Thank you. If I'm following my, if I'm following my agenda correctly, it's all marked up. It looks like the next item should be 2421366. COC request for 326 Campbell Road.
Right, so they came in front of us for an ORAD, and we determined that they had an open order of conditions. Work was never done under that order of conditions, so this would be a COC for an invalid OOC. Work never done.
Who's submitting it? Who's submitting the request?
The owner, the current owner of
The
the
owner is
property.
submitting the request?
Yeah.
Was this 2 meetings ago?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
at least.
So this is how they close it out, is with this.
Right. They proposed a house on the site, they never built it, and now they just need to wipe it off the record.
Okay.
Any discussion, questions, or is
And they
anybody?
never disturbed, they never started. with
Never
any
touched
sort.
a thing.
I'm all set.
Blackjack.
All set.
Sean?
All set?
Deb? Doug? Anybody feel moved?
I move that we grant the COC request for 2421366, 326 Campbell Road.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous as well. 2421671, extension request for 2302 Turnpike Earthworks, Inc.
So this is the corner of Sharpness Pond Road and Turnpike Street. The building is nearly done, and they're looking for certificate of occupancy. Currently, they need to clean out their stormwater management system and apply for a certificate of compliance, so I anticipate that will happen in the spring, but their order expires, I think, in April, so they're gonna need an extension.
How did their rain gardens come out?
Their rain garden looks beautiful, has a little bridge in it and everything. It's very cute. But their stormwater management ponds have been collecting some sediment and are going to need cleaning before they can file for their COC, so.
Collecting in the sediment forebays, or is collecting in the ponds themselves?
In the pond themselves too, so the infiltration isn't as great. They cleaned them out once during construction, but I think they're going to have to clean them out again before they can file.
Do you think that's construction still moving out, or do we need them to
No.
modify the O&M plan to require?
It's no longer construction silt, but it was for a long
All
time,
the
so.
landscaping, right? I mean, they have a lot of mulch and other.
Yeah, but none of
soils going around.
that's making its
And it
way.
all kind of goes, it's a really low elevation.
Right, but all of their landscape materials are enclosed, so,
So the only point I'm asking on the O and M part of it is, if their O and M plans that says you shall clean up the sediment forebay certain frequency, do we need them to increase that frequency so it gets contained within the forebay and doesn't move into the detention pond? That's the whole idea of the forebay. So if it's construction debris that's getting in there, it's construction silt, that's one thing, but if it's gonna be what we expect moving forward,
I don't think there's any chance for migration of materials that they store on site into the stormwater system. That said, there was, and again, I don't think it's the construction materials. Whether the soils on site aren't as good as they anticipated, there was some thought that the forebay wasn't infiltrating, that the times that the water was standing in the different systems was lasting longer, and we were monitoring that. So I'll be cognizant going forward to make sure once they clean things out that we have a good amount of data before we,
so I'm looking at opportunity, and an extension is about the only opportunity we're gonna have to change the O and M plan.
Right.
Can't really change it after the fact, and can't change it prior to COC. But, so if there's a time to talk about it, maybe it's now.
I don't think we can determine until they clean it, and then we can see how it functions.
Are they looking for a one-year extension?
1-year extension.
So during that year, we have the opportunity to, it's an open order of conditions.
I honestly don't think it has anything to do with materials being stored on site. The use of the property isn't contributing
Just
to the,
stuff that was in the system because of construction.
right. It's on a slope. It was disturbed for a long period of time, but I haven't seen any migration of material on site into the stormwater system.
Got it.
Does the O&M require reporting to you, and if so, have you been receiving reporting?
The monitoring's been pretty consistent, so Williams and Sparagus, Greg Hockmuth has been reporting on the site, and that's why we know the issues exist about the stormwater management system and the infiltration,
So when Williams and Spradgis are no longer there,
No, well, they're there now, and
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. It's been during construction only that we've seen it. Post-construction conditions have existed through the winter, but we really, until the ponds are cleaned again, it's not gonna really provide evidence of function of the stormwater management system. But I will make clear to them that it's gonna be important to the commission to know that the forebay and ponds are draining in the required amounts of time.
So let me take a stab at this. If I were to offer a motion to grant a one-year extension, subject to review of the existing O and M plan and to potentially require it be updated, can we simply do that as a condition of the extension?
Yep.
sounds like a motion.
Second.
Discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Done.
Okay.
You set precedent, Joseph.
Yep. You have set a
Establishing new standards
contingency.
at all times.
Contingency. Well, I mean, our orders all allow for modification of the order by the commission if we feel circumstances have changed.
It's much easier to do that when they're asking us.
Yeah.
Not when they're coming up for an extension.
Right.
Yep. That's good.
Okay, 242-1676, another extension request, Hillside Road, lot number 1, Winslow Drive Realty Group.
So this is intersection of Chestnut and Hillside, the two lots that were there.
These are these are the lots with the stone walls, with the
Yeah, yeah,
pond, with
stone
the
walls.
fish, with everything.
Yep.
So we're
So
Fallen
the-
trees.
The
falling trees, yeah,
the fallen trees. So the lot next to the wetland has been developed. The lot farthest from the wetland has not been developed.
Yeah.
So, but the site's in compliance. The wall is built across the site, across both sites. So there's no concern for,
Clean one-year extension, no issues.
no issues.
So move.
Motion and a second, discussion. There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is also unanimous. Lawrence Airport is continued. Looks like we're down to the decision, Jen.
Yep.
1 Oak Avenue, 242-1750.
So if you recall, this was for the, Oak Ave is not a public street, and so they have a culvert under the road that does not function very well, and the homeowner who lives across the street from the culvert does not experience good things when it rains. So she's proposed modifications to the culvert, a little bit of cleaning of excavation of the wetland so that the pipe can flow more efficiently through the wetland, and some grading on-site to keep the water off her property. So all that said, this is the order that pertains to that.
Not so much keep it off, but allow it to move through unimpeded, right?
Well, it does raise the sort of the front and side of
Yeah,
her property
okay.
and flows the water through the back that comes across her site, and then flows the water through the culvert more efficiently. So the first condition that I've highlighted is 36, which is something we discussed. The applicant requested to remove invasive species and plant native vegetation as part of the proposed work. And we just said that she needed to provide us more information if she was going to do that work. She didn't really have a plan or what she was going to plant. There's sort of a parking area where she owns a piece of property across from her house, as well as some land on the trustee's property that's largely honeysuckle. So if she wants to do that work, we were supportive. Joe, I think you said you don't want to make it a requirement of the order of conditions, but that if she wanted to do it, we'd be supportive, but she needed to give us more information. Yep, so 45 is the bark mulch sock. 47 is a $2,000 bond, which I thought was adequate since she is actually working in resource area. Granted, the resource area isn't hard to revegetate. It is a mowed field that the trustees of reservations own. She had all her permissions from the trustees. She has some wetland markers out there, but where it's, condition 50 requires that she have more if it's needed. Condition 55 requires her to maintain her improvements in perpetuity. 56 was something that was proposed in the order, which was that work would be done under low flow or dry conditions.
Can we talk about 55 for a minute?
Yep.
So this obligates the applicant, shall maintain, but I thought she was asking permission to continue to maintain it forevermore, but do we want to have her in violation by not maintaining it?
Well, it says the applicant's owners, their successors, assignees, so I
It
think
says
there were-
shall.
Yeah, but there were people on the road who were offering to maintain. I think they shall maintain it. Like, this is their drainage, this is their road, this is, if the town isn't obligated to maintain it, they should be obligated. I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be obligated to maintain it. Or the trustees, for that matter, they're the owners, technically. Somebody should be making sure this is an intermittent stream that
I think
flows
when it's on
under-
your own property, I think I'd be more comfortable with it, but the reality is we're obligating this applicant
Or owner.
or no, whoever has title to this property. We're
I think they
obligating-
all have title to the property because they all live on the street.
Well, they own the center of the street.
Yeah.
That's it. They own their half. They don't own the other half.
Right, but the
Yeah,
trustees
I
own
think
the
this
other
goes
half.
further than it ought to. I think what we want to say is, if they wish to maintain it, they don't need any additional permit from us. We give them permission to do that. I think that's all we wanted to do.
Okay.
I don't think we want to make them do it.
So what happens if maintenance stops?
They have to inflict this upon themselves, but they can go in and rake leaves out later on, or they can clear the pipe later
So
on.
instead of shall, are allowed.
Yeah, are
They're
allowed,
yeah, that makes sense.
without further permitting.
Okay, got it. So work under low flow, dry conditions, no stockpiling on site unless there's erosion controls, otherwise trucked off. I guess my other thing was the as-built plan. What do we,
Why is that a thing?
I mean, they're cutting the ends off a culvert and rebuilding walls. They're changing elevations.
So the only thing we heard that's potentially a contest would be the abutters claim they didn't grade this the way they said they were going to grade it.
Right.
And
So-
as a result, it's backing up to my property.
Grading on site.
I think we need to
On
support
her
the grades.
property?
Yeah. 'Cause
So
we actually
grades,
had, we actually had two abutters who were concerned about that,
so grades on One Oak Ave,
you know.
okay. So,
Any other revisions? Anybody want to move it?
Move that we adopt as amended.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt as amended. Any discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that also is unanimous. We stand adjourned.